So everyone knows about the difference between voiced and voiceless consonants. Voiced and voiceless fricatives, voiced and voiceless stops. We all know that consonants can be either voiced or voiceless. But what a lot of people don't really think about is the fact that vowels can also be voiceless. A lot of languages do have voiceless vowels, but of course they're not phonemic. They're allophones of other voiced vowels. Take Japanese, for example. The phonemes represented by the Latin letters U and I, they both have allophones which are voiceless. They can be voiceless in between voiceless consonants. But even then, it wouldn't be right just to say that these vowels become voiceless in between voiceless consonants, because there's also a lot of evidence to point towards that they're being deleted entirely in some circumstances. Yes, a lot of the time they're just rendered, voiceless, because, instead of saying, suki, someone would say ski. You don't hear a U sound necessarily, but you still see their lips round to pronounce the U sound. And so the vowel is still present in some way or another. It might not actually get pronounced, it might be entirely deleted, and the only remnant of it is the rounding of the lips. It's really difficult to say what happens there. It's probably best to say that devoicing the vowel is just one part of what happens. English also has allophonically voiceless vowels. When you have an unstressed vowel in between two voiceless consonants, like in potato, or in, what's another word? Cacophonous? Either way, in words like that, unstressed vowels can become voiceless in between voiceless consonants. And also, English does have an entire register of speech based off of being completely voiceless, and that is whispering. If I whisper like this, you can still tell the difference between E and O, because sound is still being made from the air going through my mouth. It doesn't just come from my voice, it also comes from the air resonating around my mouth. And so you can still understand what I'm saying, even though I'm not voicing any of the sounds. But what we seem to be getting from this is that, yes, vowels can be voiceless, but it's very rare that that'll actually carry phonemic meaning behind it. It's very rare that the fact that a vowel is voiceless actually has any impact on how it's understood. A Japanese person will hear ski, and they will think in their brain suki. An English person will hear potato, and in their head will think potato. It doesn't really have any effect on the word, it's just an alteration to how it's expressed. Now, this video was already very, very short, so I figured I'd mention something else as well, and that is voiceless approximants. And this is, a much more well-understood and well-known concept of voiceless approximants. Old English actually had a lot of voiceless approximants. For example, the consonant cluster H and L next to each other would result in a voiceless lateral approximant. Not a voiceless lateral fricative, that would be sh, but it results in a voiceless lateral approximant, hl. So like the Old English word for leap, which is hlaupan. One voiceless approximant has survived into a lot of modern-day dialects, and I've made a video about this. It is the voiceless equivalent of the voiced approximant w, in, dialects where people say what, where, why, and how. I didn't think that through. But yeah, one voiceless approximant has survived into modern English, and it's the consonant cluster of H and W, wh. Not in every dialect, obviously. Most dialects of English don't make any distinction, and this distinction is dying out. I've made a video about it if you want any more information. But going back to that voiceless lateral fricative that I mentioned earlier, the sh sound, a lot of you will know it from Welsh. Welsh has that sound, and it actually probably evolved from what was originally a voiceless lateral approximant. Let's make up a Welsh word, shem. If we go back, before Welsh developed the sh sound, we might find a word like clem, with a voiceless stop and then the voiced alveolar approximant l straight after it. We get that consonant cluster, clem. And over time, the voicelessness of the k sort of spreads into the adjacent lateral, and the lateral approximant itself becomes voiceless. And you see this around English today, Clusters like that will often result in a voiceless L. Clusters. And so what happened in Welsh is that we've got this word where we have a voiceless stop and a voiced lateral approximant. Then we have a voiceless stop and a voiceless lateral approximant. And then we have kind of a half-assed voiceless stop and a full-on voiceless lateral approximant, and then the stop just disappears and we're left with a voiceless lateral approximant that then sort of intensifies, goes from sh to a full-on sh, a full-on fricative rather than just a voiceless approximant. And the reason that voiceless approximants tend to develop into fricatives is because fricatives are louder than voiceless approximants. They are higher on the sonority hierarchy than voiceless approximants are. And Welsh also has voiceless equivalents of not only r, but also of m, n, and ng, which is very interesting, you know. There are also voiceless nasals. How about that? So yeah, this is just a short video that I recorded after a big event at the university that I'm going to be studying at next year. That's what this place is. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I'm not entirely sure I'm allowed to be here, so I'm just going to wrap it up right now. I hope you've enjoyed my TED talk. Have a nice week.